Okay, it's been about a week since the last time I worked on this. Worked on other projects in the meantime as usual. And rather than having a time lapse, me hauling in more dirt, the piles that I gotta go get are pretty far away. So it's gonna take a while. I'll just do a before and after. So this is after one day. I put a little bit of fill in here. I'm probably gonna have to put a culvert in here if I keep this for more than a year. This is supposed to be temporary. Temporary these days seems to be lasting longer and longer, so I may need a culvert here, but I'm going to leave it as a slight depression so that if enough water does come down here, it can just continue to flow down the gully. But what I plan to do is just show you a before and after. I've got the basic shape and it's the right size. I now just need to bring a lot more fill to bring it up. And then once we've got that in here, I'll compress it with the skid steer, and we'll put down the black fabric, you know, for erosion control, and then we'll put a layer of crusher run on top of it, and then we'll be able to build our car canopy to store it under. So rather than having you just sit and watch me haul piles of dirt, we'll do a before and after. This is the before, 1 day's worth of work. And then I'll shoot something at the end of the day to see how far we got on fill. If I'm really optimistic, we'll get to the fabric and maybe even lay the gravel today. But based on how fast I do things, I doubt that's going to happen. So let's see how today goes. Okay, I've done about 3 hours worth of work. How many bucket loads? I don't know, probably a dozen or more. But we now have a platform to fit the 10 by 17 car canopy. It's probably closer to 14 feet wide, and from here to the back is probably 22 feet, 24 feet. So I've got some room. Now I'm gonna put down the Geo Textile. I got it from Lowe's. I'll put a link in the description. But that Geo Textile then helps keep any gravel you put down from sinking in. So the next step is I need to get some Geo Textile, show you what it looks like. We'll put that down and we'll do some gravel. It's after 5 o'clock. I'm hoping I can finish by 6:30. I just wanted to show you what this Geo Textile is. It's basically like weed stop, but it's actually made for driveways. You put it under the gravel and it keeps the gravel from penetrating the ground. And the way you can cut it is taking a propane torch, and just like with nylon rope, you want to seal off the end so it doesn't fray. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut this one, and I'll show you. I'll just cut it with a propane torch. And you just hold it, you know, a bit away from the fabric. It'll start to heat it up and cut right through it. So then you're cutting it and sealing the strands at the same time. Just make sure you don't set your shoe on fire or leaves underneath. If you can, you don't want leaves underneath. But it's fall and I left the leaf blower at home. So we're just going to be very careful to make sure we don't set anything on fire. Never turn your back on a fire, so we're going to keep cutting till we're done, and then we'll just make sure everything's put out. And like that, we've now cut through the entire thing, and we'll just go through, make sure there's no leaves on fire. No leaves on fire, and we got our last piece of textile. So we're almost done. Okay, so we got the part of the textile. This will be the entrance. You can pull this over a little. The car canopy will actually be on this major part. So again, it'll actually be 10 feet wide by 17 feet long. This is 12 feet wide. So we'll have a little bit of extra. And so now I will bring a bucket full of crusher run up to here. I'll take a shovel and kind of pin it down and then I'll just repeatedly bring in buckets. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Now, sometimes they'll pin down this fabric with metal pins. One, I don't have metal pins, and two, again, this is going to be temporary, and I don't want metal pins in where I could hit my UTV tires in. So what I'm going to do is just use some of this crusher run that eventually will cover this whole thing, but I'm just going to take a few shovels full and pin down the material, and then I will just start bringing in buckets and pushing them forward. So we'll do that under time lapse so that you don't have to watch too long. I really just wanted to get quite a bit of gravel down on this so that the fabric wouldn't move. So I just, putting it on a little thick maybe, pinned it down at the corners with that stuff via the shovel. But, the risk here is that if you start turning too sharply as you're putting this down, you can twist and rip up the fabric. Okay, that went pretty quick. I probably put it on too thick, but I've had trouble with the fabric in the past where if you don't put on enough stone, you start bringing it back up. Granted, I'm only going to park the UTV on here, but maybe I'd want to park the truck eventually. So again, temporary, how long is temporary? So I think I'm going to bring one more bucket over here, and then I'll level it out. So we'll move the camera and continue with the slow motion as I finish this up. And then we're going to call it a night. It's about 6:15. We'll see if we can finish this by 6:30. When you're smoothing out the stone, you really don't want to do 180-degree turns, because if you turn sharply in place, it really grinds up the gravel and you risk tearing up the Geo Textile. So you really want to just do forward and back. And if you need to turn around to get closer to the edges, come all the way out, turn around and go back in. So no 180-degree turns. Well, that's about it for tonight. I leveled it out a little bit more by hand with a rake. Probably have to let it settle a little. Maybe we'll run over it a little bit more. But then the next step is to build the carport. I may have used a bit too much gravel, but I'm still learning. And with this fabric, you really need enough stone to keep it pinned down, or it starts to pop up. So that's it for this part of the install. Hopefully we'll be setting up the car canopy for the UTV soon. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.